Hey everyone, I'm Corey Jenkins. Welcome to Hollywood, California. I'm in the studios at TradioV. This is not only the best part of my day, but this is also a stimulating talk show that I like to call Life with Awareness. And why do I call it that? I call it that because I like to talk about life. I am enthusiastic about human beings. I'm interested in the way we communicate. I'm interested in the way we participate with each other. And I also call it with awareness. Now, real quickly, to me, awareness is a little bit different than knowledge alone. To me, awareness represents an experience that a person either has had or they have not. But characteristically, it's something where you have an opportunity to sort of stand outside yourself and observe yourself. One of the key things to this experience is being able to observe your thought process, being able to observe your emotional reactions, and then evaluate, is this something that I truly think? Does this come from inside me? Or perhaps is this something that has been conditioned into me by where I was raised, who influenced me, and therefore have the choice to relook and re-choose what it is that I believe. Now, tonight, I am going to get an opportunity to do something that I haven't done before, so let me give you a quick background. I have very vivid memories of being a child and seeing my first conflict, observing violence in the world, and just thinking to myself as a young human being, why don't these people that are at odds with each other simply sit down and communicate? Wouldn't it be more effective than fighting and perhaps killing each other if we sat down and I said, here's how I'm seeing this. How are you seeing it? Now, it's not always that simple, I have found. However, tonight I have a very special guest who is going to join me. This program is called Life with Awareness. So here's what we're going to do tonight. I have somebody with me that I am very, very excited about, and I do want to look at this. I want to look at this question of what is possible if we got to sit down and talk about the things that we think and be in a safe place and explore possibility. And the person who I'm going to do that with is Zoe Williams. Welcome to the program, Zoe.
Wow, thanks, man. Nice setup here you got.
Yeah, well, you're very familiar with it. Zoe is also one of the hosts here at TradioV. He's got an outstanding show on Monday mornings at 11 o'clock called Zoe What, which I have seen many times. And part of what I like about it is that in addition to talking about what's going on in the world, you and the people that you bring in do go deeper.
Yes, we have to. I love the way you framed the topic. The only way to go deeper, in my opinion, is to get uncomfortable. So with our show, we try to make you really, really, really uncomfortable intellectually, comedically, informationally. You know, we try to challenge all of the beliefs that have been living with you, but you didn't know about it.
And that's one of the reasons I want to have you here, because I saw, and we're going to have a conversation here tonight.
Sure.
So one of the things I observed when I saw your program is I saw, oh, this is the same conversation or a similar conversation to what I like to have. And I thought, I think you have a different audience than I do, so which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But I thought, why don't we come together and have a conversation? But before we do that, let me tell a little bit more about you, because you have such an interesting story that I could probably spend the entire hour, and unfortunately we only have 1 hour talking about you. But let's just do a quick background. So you were a music executive originally, correct? And you're a Generation Xer. You began to notice that in the content of the music that you were helping to produce and promote, there was a recognition of the way things were going in the world. And it sounds like it sort of alerted you that, hey, maybe I want to make a contribution on a different level than just producing music. And was this based on the lyrics of the music? What was it that you observed that made you
It was the
shift?
lyrics, it was the energy, it was the vibe. I mean, I'm from the golden era of hip hop. You know, Kool Mo D, LL, Cool J, Run DMC, you know, Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, KRS-One, Public Enemy, you know. But at a certain point, the music started to shift into things that, you know, every community has secrets. But when your secrets start to come out on the records, when you start performing the secrets, then it can be a little embarrassing. So I started to think, like, man, what are these kids what are they going to listen to as they get older, you know? when I was an A&R guy, I was instrumental in the development of Exhibit. I was there when Wu-Tang first dropped their first album. I worked for Loud Records. That was when I got my first go at it. I saw Mobb Deep. I saw the Alcoholics, and all of these East and West Coast groups, just evolving. And I was there at the beginning of the Biggie and Tupac genesis. The producer who produced Temptations for Tupac and Ready to Die for Biggie sent me the demo. I had the demo of those two records before anyone ever had them. And he was trying to get a record deal, of course, so he was letting me know what he was working on. But I started to see, like, man, we have all of this power, we have all of this energy, but if we don't focus this platform, it can evolve into a state of debauchery, intellectual debauchery, and of course, if your thoughts are sick, the behaviors are going to follow suit.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. I have a quote from you. There's so much to say about you. It's so interesting. You mentioned Tupac, and you've actually been dubbed as Tupac meets Deepak, which I think is pretty cool. I mean, so you do have the hip-hop recognition. At the same time, you're a deep thinker and a searcher, a seeker.
Yeah.
You also have a book called Rebirth of Seeds.
Yeah.
You also had a show on Sirius for a long time under the Jamie Foxhole
Under the
umbrella.
Foxhole, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So let's do this to get started on our conversation. I want to have a conversation that's boundless with you. So can we make some quick agreements that we're having a totally honest conversation?
Absolutely.
It's safe. I can ask you questions. You can ask me questions, and we can be two human beings that are just exploring.
Absolutely.
All right, let's do that. I'm excited. Talk to me first a little bit about, or let's discuss this whole thing about how people communicate. I know that one of your goals is to produce more effective communication, and what I've thought about is, what is communication? Communication is a way that we connect, but really, a lot of times it comes down to words. Words are just a series of letters that we have strung together. We say them or we write them, but then there's an associated meaning that we put to them.
Right.
But we don't really teach that to children. Instead, we almost more often teach the association. This word means this.
Exactly. Yeah.
What did you experience, whether it was in the music industry or as you began to search the world? You told me that at age 16, you began to really look outside of your cultural conditioning, out of your familial conditioning, and search for the things. What did you find about communication as you looked?
Well, I found a philosopher by the name of J. Krishnamurti. And he said something that was so profound as it pertains to language. He said, language uses us. We don't use language.
That's interesting.
It uses us. So when I heard that, I was like, damn, that's crazy. Oh, I just started bugging out, right? So, and then I started to think, that makes sense. Everybody looks at everybody through stereotypes.
Yes.
So the language is created from the stereotype, right? So we'll look at that, and then I started studying more, and then I found something called the fundamental attribution error. This is some old psycho babble, right? I was like, but it all started to link up in this puzzle that I was putting together using philosophy, mysticism, science, religion, all of this stuff. And the fundamental attribution error says this. Say Corey is driving in his car and an Asian guy just swoops in front of you and cuts you off to make a quick right. Most people will respond, fucking Asians, non-driving Asians, damn it. Get your damn license before you come to America. We'll do that.
Right.
The attribution, fundamental attribution error. We judge based off of stereotypes and behavior. But what we don't know, which makes it an error, is that maybe he cut you off because his wife is in the back seat giving birth.
Yep.
And he was trying to grab something, and he accidentally did that. Because we don't have context, all we have is this prerequisite default response. And most of the time, it's a response that is rooted in stereotype, cultural stereotype, ideological stereotype, fundamental attribution error. We attributed something to him not knowing the full circumstance. So,
and then
crazy.
it gets perpetuated. This is why I keep coming back to with awareness. To me, awareness represents a pause, or maybe it's a conversation like this one where we bring this to the surface. I think what you just said, a lot of people just went, oh, maybe I haven't thought about that before. Right. Byron Katie, at the beginning of one of her books, writes it interestingly. She talks about something, it seems more silly. She said she walked into a bathroom stall. There's liquid all over the toilet. It's a female stall. She thinks either that was that was a cross-dresser or somebody before me that walked out. She's all upset, and then she proceeds to do her business, and then she flushes the toilet and sees that the toilet shot up water onto the toilet seat.
Fundamental attribution error, baby. There it is.
Fundamental attribution error it's a more complicated way to say awareness, but it's this thing of going, oh, you know what? I see that I thought something, and when you do then associate that to the important things, or the things I think are important in the world, like relationships or race relations or politics or relations between countries, it magnifies, because then there's groups of people with belief systems.
Right.
So again, coming back to this conversation with you, I think it's interesting because you have this audience. You primarily, at least in all your materials, it sounds like you primarily target sort of what you call the urban/alternative audience, correct?
Let's see, and then that's ambiguous because the world is urban. Since the advent of hip hop, the globe is urban. We've got white kids in Germany watching the So What show. Like, this is some cool shit happening over here, and this is giving us a look into America that we don't normally get from their television sources or from their news sources. This seems real. And then we got kids in Africa, and then we got kids in the Philippines. It's crazy right now, especially London. London's off the charts for So What. They're like, hey man, I can't miss an episode. We had a kid call in from London. So when you say urban, let's be clear that urban doesn't necessarily denotate an ethnicity.
Yeah, and by the way, this is exactly the conversation I wanted to have, because words often can be mistaken.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very interesting. And for me, watching my audience, I have seen that I don't quite have that reach. I recognize that my audience tends to profile more like me, and that's why I thought it would be interesting to have us together talking, because, if you were to look at it in terms of labels, you and I are both humans. We're both men, we're both Americans, but there is an obvious appearance difference. My skin's lighter than yours, your skin's darker than mine. However, we're still human beings. Our hearts still want, I think, the same things. We want to feel good about what we do. We want to be happy. We want to connect with other people. We want to feel successful. And I like to try to break down those barriers by crossing conversations with other people that represent a similar message.
Right.
Now, take me back a little bit to when you started your radio program on Sirius. It was called The Voice of Reason.
Yeah.
And was it similar content to what we see on So What?
It was, but it was a little bit more tame.
Oh, it was?
It was a little bit tamer. We didn't curse, but it was still edgy because of the topics. Like, I'm dating a fat person. Are they worth the wait? Right? So that was a topic. But we were talking about obesity in America. You feel me? So, it was that kind of element. But we had Iyanla Van Zant on. We had Dr. John Gray on. Jamie Foxx came on. We had Macy Gray. It was a big-time show. We were talking to 15 million people a week. Every Thursday night. So
I like the way I read it. It said that you managed to air out all of the things we wish we could say, but we're too afraid to.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I love. We go at taboo. We just, it wouldn't be taboo if we didn't make it taboo by avoiding those discussions.
Absolutely.
And, that's what we're going to do on the rest of the program here today. We're going to take a quick break right now, but when I come back, we're going to be with Zoe Williams. In the meantime, you can tweet me at Corey Jenkins. You can also check out Zoe's website. It is iamzoewilliams.com.
That's me.
And we'll be back with you here in just a couple of minutes. I'm Corey Jenkins. It's Thursday. We're still in Hollywood, California, in the studios at TradioV, and I am joined by Zoe Williams. He is the author of a book called Rebirth of Seeds. He's also a television host who has been on Sirius Satellite Radio, as well as right here at TradioV, 11 o'clock on Monday mornings, the Zoe What Morning Show. You also are a person who, at around the age of 16, had some sort of awakening where you said, I want to go learn something a little bit different, and it involved checking out a variety of philosophies, a variety of religions. Tell me what sparked that and what some of the first things were you did to expand your awareness.
Well, just coming from my background, I think my background has something to do with it. I was raised by my mother. I didn't see my father a lot. And I think by the time I got like around 17, I was having this conflict between being a basketball player and being an artist. And when I was young, I didn't have that father figure that would give me the direction that I needed to say, okay, we're going to go this way. And this way will facilitate the other things. Sometimes that masculine energy will lay out the blueprint for you and then put things in order and say, this is what we're going to do. We're going to knock this down first, then we're going to move to this. I didn't have that. So I was making my own kind of decisions. And so, there was great confusion and perturbation in my mind. And then, I've always been into religion, even when I was little. My mother put me in, private school and, Catholic Christian school or whatever, and I was memorizing whole sections of the Bible and winning contests. So
did you like it right from the beginning? I mean, was there something stimulating about it?
I don't know if it was stimulating. I was just very interested.
Okay.
It was just something that came easy. You know what I mean? Like I used to draw. It just came easy. And by the time I turned 16, I just one day stopped drawing. And I used to really draw, like really well. And every now and then, my daughter picked it up. Now she draws.
Interesting.
And I noticed as she's drawing, I'll sit down and draw with her, and it's back. It just I put it down when I was 16. It's kind of crazy.
Interesting. Let's talk a little bit about religion, because obviously I introduced this show as an open conversation, an honest conversation about belief systems, including cultural conditioning. You and I both know, and I imagine a lot of you do out there as well, but there is something that's very proven, which is that we tend to take on the characteristics of our environment. If we're born into a family that has certain belief systems, possibly religious belief systems, it's our first introduction to religion or spirituality. So there's a tendency to either take that on or to tremendously resist it.
Right.
You were around 16, it sounds like, when you started to look. For me, it came much later in life. It was towards my later 20s, without having a major religious influence. And I said, I'm interested in understanding this. I'm tired of hearing people talk about Jesus Christ or Muhammad or Buddha and me not really knowing what they were talking about. And then I went out and did some of my own seeking. For you, was there any experience where you were like, oh my gosh, I believe something quite different than my family believes? And was there any conflict with that?
Well, no, not really. Not very much conflict. I remember when I started studying Islam, my mother was like, oh, Lord, you gonna be a Muslim? Don't be no Muslim, boy. I didn't raise you that way. And I told her, I was like, they're basically the same. Oh, no. Now, once you saved by Jesus, you always saved. You can't undo it, boy. I said, okay, Mama. But then at a certain age, I realized, like, okay, I can't take this information to Mom. Mom's a Christian. She's going to be that, and there's nothing I can do to change that, So, it actually matured me. I mean, I studied Islam for 12 years.
Oh, you did? So significant exploration of Islam.
Oh, man. I jumped deep into it.
After, I'm assuming, you're having a deep experience with Christianity or some derivative of that.
Christianity was, it was like a member of the family. It's kind of hard to explain. It was like, you go to church, you got Easter, Christmas. All of these things are there, and they signify and represent Christianity as part of your family, as your family member. And I'm from the South. I was born in Chattanooga. I spent the first 8 years of my life in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So that's a country boy until, my mother decided to move us to Pasadena. So I was raised in Pasadena, but the first 8 years was Chattanooga, Tennessee, and that's Bible Belt country.
Yeah.
So.
Well, see, that's why I appreciate a little bit of the background on it, because to me that's a cool story. At least for me, I think that's so interesting to have someone who was very deep in one belief system, and then in your case, it's actually a pretty dramatic shift to go take on one of the other major religious beliefs that exist in the world and spend that much time, it sounds like, very in-depth learning about that. Maybe offer one or two key things, maybe not specifics about them, but what was it like to go, oh my gosh, I see how maybe this one is similar to this one, or this one's different than this one.
Well, in studying Islam, I found that, and not just Islam, I would say the three Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, they're like triplets. They're like cousins and brothers and sisters. They're related intimately. And you can't, in a way, you just can't separate them. And when I started to study Islam and I noticed that Jesus, his grandfather, had a chapter in the Quran, I go, oh, whoa. Jesus, Muslims are waiting for Jesus too?
Interesting.
Oh, wait a minute. You start seeing the connectivity there. And then, the religion of Abraham, and you go, wait a minute, they are all connected to Abraham? Okay. I'm not going to see any more division between you guys.
Right.
And once I recognized that, I was like, okay, the divisions are petty and egoic.
Yeah. Yet, we kill each other over them in some cases.
Well, here's the thing about the universe. And I tell people this all the time. The universe is like a living canvas. And your thoughts, words, and deeds are the paint, right? But the problem is the way you behave will concretize on that canvas. So how you think, how you believe, you manifest that. And it hardens and becomes a portrait. That's your life. That's culture. Now, culture can either be a gateway or a prison. Back to Krishnamurti, he says, now, just because you love your culture doesn't mean it isn't a prison. Just because you've adorned it, right, and you've decorated it, doesn't mean it still isn't a jail cell. It's a cell that you've made comfortable.
Yeah, and here and in that metaphor, there's no reason that a person can't love that jail cell or maybe love that luxury hotel room.
Yeah.
But step outside and go look around and see what else is outside of it. And then, I kind of like the Joseph Campbell sort of trio level where you've got to hear the calling, you've got to go on the adventure, and then you have to return home. And that's part of my experience too, is getting out of the training, whether it was religious or otherwise, not resisting it or having to make it wrong, for example, in the exploration of Christianity versus Islam, but to see that there are other things out there. And for me, in many cases, I have then returned to the original tradition, let's call it, but with an awareness that, it's not right or better.
Right.
I might truly like it. I might, in fact, I might not love the principles of Christianity, but I might like my church.
Right.
I might like the people that I go to church with. There's a whole bunch of different reasons to do it. So to me, that is just a fascinating experience to hear other people talk about their experience of.
But Corey, if we honestly want a relation shift,
I haven't heard that one. I like
if we
that.
wanted a relation shift, we're going to have to understand fundamentally that it is ideological and conceptual thinking that creates enmity between people.
There's no flexibility in it.
Because you say, this is my home. Well, if it's my home, right, I must defend it now. Wherever there is an identity, the identity must defend, right? The ninth letter in the alphabet is I, and I in Greek and Latin is ego. Wherever there is an ego or an identity, it must be defended. Why? Because it has borders that identify it.
Very interesting.
You see? So we have to get past ideological thinking.
I like that. I like that too. And it's interesting, especially in that idea, right? Because there are these not even polarities, but it's these opposites. And this was
Polarity,
for me, it was almost more of a lifestyle / spiritual change. In other words, I came from a corporate environment. I came from wearing a suit. I came from living a certain way. And then as I went to explore certain things, part of my glasses that I was wearing was just looking for the right way. So when all of a sudden someone presented me with some new ideals, some new principles, some new values, instead of really tapping in and figuring out, does this work for me, I just adopted those, and I kind of did the opposite. I ended up kind of being a little bit of a hippie, which was kind of the opposite of what I was, and trying to share everything and being open to everybody's ideas.
That's powerful.
It was a powerful experience.
Yeah.
And at the same time, what I learned is that there are certain characteristics of the me that I am that were still very, very authentic. And I think that's important to look at too.
Absolutely.
Which is, and I do hear the music coming on, so we're gonna take a break in a second. But when we come back, let's shift a little bit. I'm going to ask Zoe to have another really courageous conversation with me. We're going to move a little bit from religion to yet another one of our hot topics, and I'll be right back with Zoe Williams. Don't forget, tweet me at Corey Jenkins, and we'll see you in 2 minutes. I'm Corey Jenkins. I'm sitting here with Zoe Williams. We're talking about life with awareness, and I'm doing the same thing Zoe likes to do, which is we're grabbing topics that are taboo. We're grabbing topics that a lot of people are afraid to talk about. He and I have made an agreement. We're having an open conversation where we get to express our opinions. Nobody's going to be wrong, and we think there's some value in that. And with that, I want to show you at home, and I want to show Zoe a video, and then we're going to talk about it. So check this out.
What happened?
I'm having an issue with my husband where I'm starting to grow very resentful of him. I'm black and he's white. We've been around some of his friends and family members who start make racist comments as if I'm not there or if I'm not black. And my husband ignores those comments, and it hurts my feelings. And then he just acts like he didn't.
Can you give me an example of a racist comment? Because sometimes people are hypersensitive. So give me 2 good examples of racist comments.
Okay, last night, good example. We had a neighbor come over, and this neighbor, every time he comes over, it's always a black comment. It's, oh, well, how do you black people like doing this, and do black people really like doing that? And for a long time, I would ignore it. But last night, I got to the point
I don't think that's racist.
Well, the stereotype.
I don't think that's racist. No, I think that, no. I think that's, well, listen, without giving much thought, a lot of blacks voted for Obama simply because he was half black. Didn't matter what he was going to do in office. It was a black thing. You got to know that. That's not a surprise. Not everything that somebody says. We had friends over the other day, got about 35 people here. The guys who were going to start playing basketball. I was going to go out and play basketball. My bodyguard and my dear friend is a black man. And I said, white men can't jump. I want you on my team. That was racist? That was funny.
How about the N-word, though? The N-word's been thrown around.
Black guys use it all the time. Turn on HBO, listen to a black comic, and all you hear is I don't get it. If anybody without enough melanin says it, it's a horrible thing. But when black people say it, it's affectionate. It's very confusing. Don't hang up. I want to talk to you some more. Don't go away. I'm Dr. Laura Schlesinger. I'll be right back. I'm Dr. Laura Schlesinger talking to Jade. What did you think about during the break, by the way?
I was a little caught back by the N-word that you spewed out, I have to be honest with you. But my point is race relations.
Oh, then I guess you don't watch HBO or listen to any black comedians.
But that doesn't make it right.
Yeah, I think you have too much sensitivity and not enough sense of humor. Oh, it depends how it's said.
Is it okay to say that word? Is it ever okay to say that word?
It depends how it's said. Black guys talking to each other seem to think it's okay.
But you're not black. They're not black. My
Oh, I
husband is
see.
white.
So a word is restricted to race. Got it. Can't do much about that.
I can't believe someone like you is on the radio spewing out the nigger word, and I hope everybody
I
heard
didn't
it.
spew out the word.
All right. So you could hear that, right, Zoe?
Oh, yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Follow my lead on this a little bit, because here's a lot of you have seen that already. This is not news. This is 4 years ago this happened.
Right.
And what I don't want to do is what everybody did after that and go and say, was Dr. Laura right or wrong? That is not the conversation I want to have with you. What I found interesting about this was that when all this went down and I went back and heard it, what I heard was Dr. Laura attempting to try to have this conversation, which it's a sensitive conversation because we've made it a sensitive conversation. We've had it. It's a sensitive conversation because nobody's sat down like this, like you and I are, to ask those questions. And instead it happened like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I mean, I'm going to just really be straightforward with you here, that as I heard it, I kind of thought Dr. Laura had a point. You know, I called you up before this show, and I wanted to talk about this word because I'm a white guy, and it makes me a little nervous even thinking about saying it out loud.
It should, damn it, it should.
Well, you know, and that's part of why I wanted to bring up the conversation. Now, you said something on the phone to me which I thought was super relevant and not that different from what Dr. Laura said, which is, what's the context of how you're using the word, the denotative or connotative?
Right.
Denotative is what the dictionary definition of a word says. Connotative is what's in the context of it. So let me just ask you your opinion real quickly. The way Dr. Laura used the word, do you feel like that was offensive?
Logically,
And it's okay if you do. I'm just curious.
This is how I view it. You and I had an agreement. Dr. Laura and her did not. So Laura is trying to have a conversation she did not have an agreement in place for, right? Had she had an agreement in place, then there would have been maybe some receptivity to what Laura was saying. Now, Laura's point about the contradiction, the double standard in the African American community was valid. But
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that because I
Yeah.
also thought that was worthy
But-
of mentioning.
Laura was condescending and dismissive of the caller. As if, oh, we're past this. We don't even really need to talk about this. Wait a minute, I'm justified in saying it because you guys still say it and you haven't reconciled it. Wait a minute. As a nation, we haven't had the discussion. We haven't set up the game rules for this particular vitriolic term.
So let's
Right?
so you know what?
Right?
So let's you and I take a swing at this. Because I don't know what other platform somebody's going to do it. But as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking to myself, first of all, when would I ever really need to use that word? And I actually can't think of one. Now, at the same time, I don't want to have to constantly navigate the sensitivity of everybody I'm talking to hopefully not upset them. But I really can't imagine a time when I would need to use that word. Can you ever think of a time when...
I've done several shows about the N-word. You know, African Americans, we want to march and we want to bury the word. Well, you can bury a word and prevent everyone from saying it, but if you don't bury the mentality, the word will live on in another form. So, as it pertains to this word, nigga, let's just say it, nigga. As it pertains to this word,
Should I say it?
go ahead.
And should I say...
dare you to say it right now. I'll come across this table, goddammit. No, I'm just...
No, but actually, this is a great example because I'm sitting here going, let me double check because
Right.
I respect you. It makes me nervous to
but
say
it
it.
hurts the African American community to have other... And when we say other races, we're really talking about white folk.
Right.
We're talking about white folk. White folk,
Right.
you can't say it. You know why you can't say it? Because this is white people have a kind of sense of entitlement and, hey, that was 150 years ago. We weren't there. We didn't do that to you.
Right.
Well, what's the big deal? It's a big deal because everyone else gets acknowledged, right? The Jews get reparations from Germany, right? The Japanese Hey, we did you wrong. Black folk, we brought you here by force. We called you nigger. Nigger. You look up that word negro from the Spanish, negro, just means black. So now the connotation being black actually means being less than, being inferior. So what I tell black people is this: don't base our entire existence on a 400-year span of time, when in actuality our history is thousands and thousands of years, right? But Hollywood is still racist. You got the new, what's my man, Batman? What's the actor who did Batman?
I apologize. I'm not good with comic movies. I don't know.
What's my guy?
Somebody has it.
I forgot him. He has a
No.
lisp. He's, huh?
No, we
He has
can't
a
hear.
lisp. But anyway, he's now Moses.
Oh,
Yeah. And then, you go look at the Sphinx in Africa, in Northeast Africa, Egypt. Archaeologists have already proven that is an African face on the Sphinx. But they're rebuilding the Sphinx for this new movie, Gods in War, Kings or whatever. They're building this new thing. And Christian Bale
oh,
is Moses.
Oh,
And then
okay.
the Pharaoh is white. And this is 2014. So when white people even fix their lips to say nigga, what? We gonna whoop your ass. Because you have not stood up and said, you know what? We've been lying about everything. But let's just be honest.
Interesting.
We've been lying.
So tell me if I'm hearing this correctly, because it sounds to me like then one of the only ways to have this discussion is kind of like we're doing right now,
Right.
where we call it out in advance, we make an agreement, we're having a discussion, we're trying to create awareness.
Right.
Because I'm listening to this and I'm going, and let me just be real straight that now, and again, look at what I am. I'm a 6'1" white guy. Went to college, grew up in a safe place. Like, I could be considered the most square guy in the world, but I'm interested in learning this stuff.
Absolutely.
So it's interesting to look at this and go, I lost my point there for a second, but it's interesting to look at this and go, well, then how do we have this conversation? Because I don't want to necessarily follow all the rules. I don't need to make everybody around me feel comfortable. But what I do want is to coexist more peacefully with everybody. And
Well, you have to give yourself credit here because you're doing it. Just by saying, let me bring Zoe in and let's have this conversation. Because if more whites, especially white males who are in positions of power and authority, would sit down and say, okay, we have to deal with the African American community in a certain way because of things our forefathers have done. And then we can say, okay, our forefathers did that. But then when we fast forward to today, there's still some systemic racial things in society: ageism, racism, sexism, classism. These are all tied and rooted together. So, to say racism is dead and that was 150 years ago, and then we look at a new movie with Christian Bale as the white Moses with white Pharaoh in black Africa, in black Egypt, well, then we have to say, wait a minute now. You guys are still perpetuating certain things,
Well, I'll tell you what, we are doing exactly what I love to do, which is have stimulating conversations. You made me think of exactly how I want to close this program. We have one more segment to go.
I'm with you.
What we're going to talk about is when we come back is that there is a process to this. I don't think that anything on a principle level either exists on this side or on that side. I think that there is a process. It does involve communication. I couldn't be more happy to have Zoe Williams with me because he understands how effective communication can be, and he's willing to participate in conversations like this one. So take a quick break. If you want to tweet us at Corey Jenkins or check out Zoe's website, do so. It's I am Zoe Williams, and we'll be right back here in a couple of minutes. Hey everyone, we're back. I'm Corey Jenkins. I'm sitting here with Zoe Williams. This is a program I like to call Life with Awareness. And man, we got going in that last segment. I think it was the right conversation to be having. I really appreciated what you said about us creating an agreement to have a conversation. And,
Right.
On the break, it was funny. A producer walks in and they said, well, Corey, you didn't say the N-word. And I'm sitting here thinking, is there a reason that I should? And even inside this conversation, I don't know if there is a reason that I should say it.
Right.
If it comes up, I'll say it. If it doesn't, it won't. And chances are it probably won't. But
It probably won't.
it probably
For your safety, please don't do it.
For your safety. Now, here's what I do want to end on. We've only got about 10 minutes to go. And you were saying something. You're talking about the legacy of the race. Or you're talking about, the Jews have Germany that apologized. There is this attachment to the story. And I want to talk about this because, again, I get that I don't have a particular racial history or trauma or anything. I mean, I probably come from the most cozy profile that there is. So, in my learning of various philosophies and testing out different thinking, it has occurred to me that if certain cultural groups were able to detach from their stories related to their race, that everybody would be a lot happier. In our discussion, I'm getting that there's just no way for me to empathize with that situation. Now, philosophically, would it be possible if you could be black or if you could be Jewish and not be told this story about your race? Maybe. And at the same time, we're still humans that connect through story.
Right.
And some of those stories are horrific.
Right.
And we develop an identity. And that's not always bad either. I mean, you talked at the very beginning, you said J. Christian Emerti's quote was, and maybe you can say it again, but it's that it can be our jail or it can be our, what was the quote?
Yeah. The culture we live in, can become a prison, but just because we adorn the prison doesn't mean it isn't still a prison.
Right. Okay. I guess it doesn't make my point exactly, but we do connect with people. So and with people that we identify with. So I can imagine that there is some camaraderie at a cultural level when a group looks back and goes, wow, this was part of our story. This is really horrible. And so I'm having an awareness on the show with you that I'm like, what, that idea that I had that if everybody who was Jewish or everybody who was black could just magically not have their racial, cultural legacy, then it would be a lot easier. But, that's so much easier said than done.
Right. Well, you have to understand the bonding that happens in an AA meeting, right, happens because there's a shared reality. There's a shared experience.
Thank you. That's a great way to put it.
Right? So the same thing happens in cultures. But I always tell, like in a relationship context, I always tell women, stop dating your ideas. Right? Because as men, we're not better talkers than you. And you value our behavior over what we say. So what we do is listen to your ideas and mold our behaviors to your ideas. And then you get a behavioral confirmation. He's the one because he does the way I like. And then what speaks louder than behavior, ladies? Most of them don't know. You know why? Because they tell their intuition, be quiet. He's doing everything I want. Be quiet.
That's interesting. I didn't actually know the answer to what speaks louder than behavior because I was thinking of it as what speaks louder from an outside person, but I get it. You're saying
intentions speak louder than behaviors. So when the woman doesn't listen to her intuition, who's talking to her directly about his intention, she ignores it because his behavior is in alignment with her ideas.
And you're saying in that case, and this is a whole nother day you're going to have to come back, but you're saying that the behaviors have been modified by the man to fit what
we lie with our behavior. That's what we do. So guess what? She gets hurt. And now the hurting becomes a coping mechanism. She figures out how to get past it, but it's a coping mechanism. It's a scab. That's what culture is. A scab, a coping mechanism. And until we heal it, Do you understand? We can't get past it. That's why it's our story. It's tradition. Well, anything that's traditional is the past. All thought is but a reflex of memory. The present is where we really live.
Yeah.
But we can't get there when our stories take precedent. We are in love with our culture and our story. We don't even see it as a coping mechanism for unresolved hurt. Right?
So let me see if I can wrap this up, because
It's crazy, right?
on one hand, we look at this and we go, oh, it's not detached from our culture, but let's explore outside of our culture. It really, as you said that, it brought me right back to the way I introduced this show, which is awareness. Whether it's a person stepping outside of themselves to look at their thoughts and emotions, or whether it's a person stepping outside of their culture briefly, at least, to say, I mean, I like the religious example, right? You just take an American Christian person and you pull them out and you let them see the perspective that is a tradition that they've been brought up in. Let them explore that there are other traditions, see if they like a different one better. And if they don't, there's no reason you can't keep being a Christian. There's no reason you can't still loving your culture, but have some experience outside of it, so that you have a level of awareness to choose it.
Right. Really quickly, when Michael Jackson was talking about writing records, he simply said he doesn't write them, they come from God. And I've heard somebody say, intelligence exists in between the thought. The tradition and the culture is the thought, which is the past. But true intelligence exists outside of the box, in between the thought. That's where we are liberated from our story. That's where we can explore. That's when the Zen Buddha says, jump, and then the net will appear. Right?
Yeah.
So we have to do that.
I like that.
That's what
one.
we have to do.
So, what a cool conversation, man.
Thanks, bro. Thanks.
I really appreciate it. I'm not sure if we're going to break. I'm so interested. I mean, I know we're getting ready to end the show, but let me just see if I can wrap up here. I don't want to turn the cameras off. I just want to keep talking. But I want to thank you for coming here. I want to thank you for hosting a conversation with me that I've wanted to have for a really long time. No boundaries, human to human.
There you go.
Talk about stories, talk about culture is very cool. What's the best place for people to find you? Is it iamzowilliams.com?
Twitter. I am Zoe Williams, or Instagram at Mr. Zoe What.
And when you go to his site, check out not only his book that you can download there. There's also links to another book that you can buy there. There's also some other cool stuff that people can stay in touch with you. And see Zoe here on TradioV at 11 o'clock in the morning on Mondays. And come back and join me again next Thursday for more stimulating conversations here on Life with Awareness. See you next week, everybody.
Deuces.